And what's up? What's up? Wes Mitchell here, Chris Clark. Friday morning recording of this non-live edition of GC Live. That is the one problem with our name of GC Live. That if we wanted to do more pre-recorded shows, can we still call it GC Live? I don't know. But this is essentially GC Live. We're recording Friday morning. This will be popped out to you probably early Friday afternoon. Either way, didn't want to not have a show today, but we're not able to do our normal afternoon thing. So we're going to record it and we'll post it out there. Going to be a very random Friday show as we sort of close out the week. And obviously Gamecocks have the weekend off, and then we'll turn our attention to Texas A&M on Monday. May talk a little bit about them today, depending on how long things go. And we may have an interview with KJ Brent tacked in here as well, former Gamecock wide receiver. If not, I think we'll probably be able to talk to him next week. We're just working out times on when we're going to chat. How many drinks do you have right now, Chris?
I have two different drinks. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting here, we're chatting before the show, and I'm watching a mug come across.
Yeah.
Then a big old, I don't know what that other one was, come across. And then I'm waiting on a third drink to come across.
Well, it's only 9. So water. And then we do have coffee on this edition of GC Live. And
water and coffee.
Maybe our coffee should be sponsored, actually. And we actually have a subscriber who has an awesome coffee company. The name is escaping me. I'm going to talk to him. We're going to get some of his coffee on the show. It is really good. He sent me some. It's bomb.
I was about to say, well, if he was a sponsor, you definitely would not forget the name of his company.
I feel bad. I don't mind saying it. I really would, to give him a shout out, and I just can't remember it.
All right. Well, we have no trouble remembering Affordable Medical and AffordableMedicalUSA.com. 803-926-1493. They are home of the Game Day Chair. We'll tell you a little bit more about the Game Day Chair later on in the show. And if you are interested in getting mentioned on the show, we do still have a couple of sponsorship opportunities available. I think one of them is about to be taken next week, so we'll tell you more about that. We'll tease it. We'll tell you more about that next week. But first of all, man, we always try to sort of, I would say, operate the shows around what's going on in Gamecock Nation. It seems like right now the big topic of discussion has to be Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, the now 4-star defensive tackle. Rivals was a little slow in tacking that 4-star on, but they have done that now, making him the top prospect in the state of South Carolina in the Rivals rankings. So, and really I think still the lone 4-star in the state, which for that class anyway, for 2021, which is crazy. Never happens. You always have at least a few of those guys, it seems like. But the announcement this evening looks like 5:30. It's been strange, man. I think there is maybe – I always think it's interesting with recruiting how there's sort of this – a lot of times going into announcement, there's this like greater assumption where sort of things – I don't even want to say leak out, but things sort of spread around the internet, and most people sort of assume, okay, that's the big rumor there. That's where the guy's going. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's not. Obviously, with Big T, it's sort of been Georgia has been like the assumption. Just if you looked on a random recruiting message board right now, we've been working on this one. As suspected, there's conflicting things floating around out there. That's really been the case throughout the entire recruitment, and I didn't expect any different down the stretch, Chris. So. Not a surprise there, but and again, we're recording this 9:13 a.m. Friday right now. So there's a chance we may post something new later on in the day if something changes. But at 9:13 a.m. Friday, October 30th, what are your thoughts on this one, man?
Yes, we're working it last night, Thursday night. We're heck, West, I think we were on the phone about 9:30, 10 o'clock talking about this one. And even today, I'm still getting some texts coming in right now as we're recording this, trying to figure it out. And I don't know that we will figure it out for sure. this is one of those situations that comes up every now and then where there's a lot of conflicting information. This time it's more around two schools. You remember like the Jordan Birch recruitment. There was conflicting information on a bunch of schools, and then at the end it was more LSU and South Carolina, and it went back and forth. And so there's typically some legitimate reasons for that. Usually a guy, is maybe having trouble making a decision. Maybe he's having trouble telling somebody no. The general thought is this one is Georgia or South Carolina. And look, there are reasons. That's the thing. There are legit reasons in reporting this to feel that it could be either one. And that's based on feedback that we've gathered behind the scenes. We know what's been said, a lot of times who it's been said to. And so that's why neither of them would be a surprise. And that makes it difficult to tell. Makes it difficult to tell even for the people who are recruiting the kid. But here's the thing, and this is a little bit why this segment on Tyrion, some of it at least, is going to be evergreen. No matter where he commits, announces for, there's an expectation from everybody we've spoken with on all sides that, it's going to continue. Tennessee's not going to give up. Georgia's not going to give up. South Carolina's not going to give up. Whatever school he commits to, they're going to have to continue recruiting him to. And that's everyone's expectation. But, as far as South Carolina, from where we sit right here, 9:15 a.m. on a Friday, recording this of the day of the announcement, there have been some positive signs for South Carolina over and over, even recently. Last night, there were some good signs. There were some positive signs in terms of the people who've been told who maybe aren't necessarily in the South Carolina spectrum. But at the same time, there's some legitimate reasons where you wouldn't be surprised if it was Georgia. So we'll have to see how it plays out. And then the whole thing, I think it's going to continue. It's going to be one of those where it's probably the door's not going to be completely shut.
Yep. And at this point, man, I need to pull it up. I put in a future-cast prediction for him. And I mean, we all know how these future casts and crystal balls and all this stuff goes. It's like, one person puts one in and then a bunch of people follow it. And I put in one for South Carolina months and months and months ago. Right now, again, as you would expect, if you look at the Rivals one, again, 9-16, it's pointing 75% to Georgia, which, again, sort of goes with that greater trend of that's sort of like the message board assumption right now.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily dive into what's maybe necessarily the back and forth down the stretch that takes place in really a lot of these recruitments. There's jockeying for position.
Sorry to interrupt, man. I was going to say, so the whole whatever name everybody, any network has for any type of forecast, I almost feel like we should explain that a little bit more because we see that so much. There is always this assumption of so-and-so on such and such network, whether it's Rivals or elsewhere, he's got 17 predictions for this school. So he must be going there. Now, sometimes that is the case. Sometimes not. But you have to understand that with some of these, it's a little bit of, and I'm not saying anything bad about anybody by any means, but it's a little bit of follow the leader, right? You and I, sometimes I haven't future casted anybody in quite a while, but we don't follow people who commit to Oregon or whatever, it doesn't matter for the most part. And so I think what we see a lot of times is somebody who does have legitimate information or a reason to feel a certain way about a kid, which again, anybody predicting Georgia has at least a legitimate reason right now. We know that for sure. Somebody predicts it and then some other people see it or they talk to that person and it's sort of like a piggyback situation, right? So those things aren't all, what does Jordan Birch's future cast or whatever say right now? I think there's still more LSU in Georgia.
Probably.
He's on the roster, so it doesn't always matter. And a lot of times when you get up these big numbers, sometimes it's a little bit of follow the leader, even if the information ends up being correct, if that makes sense. just a little primer on that I felt like getting off my chest, I guess.
Yeah, and the reason I bring it up is that regardless of, as we sit here and readily admit, it could easily be Georgia, could still be South Carolina. I put in my South Carolina prediction December 12th, 2019.
Goodness. Yeah.
So, point being, if I had it in there for that long, I'm just going to roll with it. If I take the L, so be it. It is what it is. That would be, that would technically be my second L for the 2021 class. My only mark right now is an old Lavoisier Carroll prediction where I had predicted South Carolina before he committed to South Carolina. And obviously he decommitted, and I never even went back and messed with it. And then he committed to Georgia. So it counts as a miss, obviously, because I didn't go back and delete it or change it. It was originally a hit, when he committed, but now it's a miss. But other than that, if he picks Georgia, that would be my first miss. Not that I really even care about all that stuff, but I'm just going to roll with it is my point.
There you go.
And we'll see what happens. But so everybody saw I had the highlights going there for a second. I think at least worth mentioning quickly what either one of these schools is going to get, if they get Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. And I think, man, it's just you look around. Obviously, everybody is in. I would say everybody is in the. Nobody's looking around saying, "Man, we don't need 6'5", 290-pound dudes who are fleet of foot." And the very first rep on here, very first snap, is of Big T playing tight end and going for a touchdown. And he's a basketball kid as well. There's really some, I would say, some TJ Sanders, some things here that reminds me a little bit of him, just in that they're both basketball kids, light-footed defensive linemen who have played a lot of edge roles in high school, but probably end up in the interior in the next level. And Rival still has him actually as a strong side defensive end as far as those rankings go. I tend to think this is a defensive tackle, and now unless if he's in a 3-man front, maybe you can play him on the edge a little bit. But this is a kid that really started to come on as far as a recruit about a year ago, and I would say has really started to take his game to the next level as a senior based on some things I've heard, has really filled into his body, has he appears that he has added weight but trimmed down, if that makes sense, in that he's added good weight and sort of reshaped his body a little bit. And especially in the state of South Carolina, man, this state has such a history of putting out defensive line prospects. To me, this is just sort of your, I don't want to say typical because it sort of downgrades it, but just a big athletic kid that you just get in your program and develop.
Yeah, you're right. Big athletic kid. He's grown a lot. You can look at some of the early pictures on his Rivals profile, and he looks like he's, I don't know, 230 at the most. And now he's a guy who looks like a legitimate, Power 5 defensive tackle prospect. So, you look at what he brings to the table, or brings to the field rather. They don't play football on a table. He's a guy that, as you said, has grown into his body. He's an attacking type of tackle. Will he have to refine his techniques, use his hands better? Sure. But you look at just his initial get off, his ability to, move into the backfield, knife into the backfield, pursue the ball carrier. He's got the word you use, Wes, he's fleet of foot is definitely a good way to describe it. So he's a guy that has disruptive potential, on the interior, and is really just now beginning to really blossom, into his frame and sort of refine his skill set a little bit more, grow into his body. So there's a good bit to like here about Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins.
Yep. So we'll all find out 5:30 on Friday, but as Chris said, it'll be one we will continue to track even after that. So we'll see. We'll, of course, have coverage on GamecockCentral.com, regardless of what the answer is from Big T this evening, 5:30 Eastern. All right, turning the page a little bit. Like I said, this is going to be a random show Friday. We mostly stick to football and recruiting, but since it is a bye week, dude, so got a random question for you here.
All right.
So this all ties in after I went to the fair last week. Mackenzie and I went over to the Horseshoe and we're checking out campus and went in the Russell House. And I know a lot of our watchers and listeners here are, alums at USC. Man, so the Russell House is completely different now.
Really?
Like completely redesigned. Oh. And those of you who are in sort of, me and Chris's age range, or probably a little bit before, and I think slightly after, knew about the magic of Pandini's.
Why? I mean, you're absolutely torturing.
And for one, I had known for a while Pandini's did not exist anymore.
So sad.
I don't remember what the name of the place. I think I do. I think there's a Panera there now. So the entire downstairs now is completely redesigned, and it looks amazing. But so, and Mackenzie went there as well, but it was well after I did, and I was like, "Wait, so there's no GIMP anymore?" And she's like, "What's the GIMP?" And I'm like, "The Grand Marketplace." And she's like, "Well, no, that's not a thing." I'm like, "Well, it used to be a thing." So then I'm like, "Wait, so there's no cafeteria?" It's everything. Yeah, everything at the Russell House now is, and that part of this conversation has been spurred by Izzy Rushton, who is the USC, I guess, student body president.
I was following along with that a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, and the tweet, if she doesn't remember the combination of Pizza Hut and Taco Bell up top, then she's too young for you. So I certainly remember that. I know that was there when we were there. Chick-fil-A is still there, but expanded.
Right.
But man, I ate Chick-fil-A all the time.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A, Pandini's, and then the cafeteria.
There was a Burger King upstairs.
Yes, there was a Burger King as well.
Yes.
I don't think I went there as much. There was a couple other things up there.
Einstein Brothers Bagels.
Yep.
And then there was something on the the left of Burger King, because Pizza Hut, Taco Bell was on the far right. I ate that way too much. It was really bad. And then I feel like it was maybe like a
is there like an Asian food?
It was like Asian or Greek, and then it changed out some. I didn't really go there a lot, whatever it was. I ate the bad stuff most of the time.
And then there was a ice cream. Was it Marble Slab?
Marble Slab was down. Maybe that was upstairs. Yeah,
it was up to the right back.
Yeah.
Now that's like a health food area.
Boy.
But dude, so here the point of this conversation, other than to fill time, is that there is no Chicken Finger Wednesday anymore because there's no cafeteria, and pretty much everything is like, okay, this is a separate little mini restaurant. This is a separate little mini restaurant. There's no just old school lunchroom style. You get different food every day. There's no, remember there was that flat top grill in the back where you could get like a burger or a patty melt.
What? Oh, yes.
I still remember. You know how you remember just random stuff? I still remember when I was getting a patty melt, because you'd put that seasoning on the fries. Yeah. God, no wonder we all got fat in college.
I know.
I still remember the late, great Kenny McKinley Um, I was in the patty melt line, and he was getting his patty melt too. And I mean, you know how it was, man. The athletes, especially the like high profile football players, everybody knew who they were. So there was this one guy that was always throwing patty melts over there, and he was super cool. And I still remember him seeing that Kenny was there, and him, flipping burgers over there. Turn around, Kenny. He's like, I told you were gonna get your first one this week. I told you, man. And it was South Carolina had beaten Arkansas at Arkansas, and Kenny McKinley had caught that post route for a long touchdown, and that was actually the first. Kenny had caught a ton of balls at that time, but I don't think he had an actual touchdown. But this guy was so excited for Kenny because he had gotten his first touchdown. I think it was his first career touchdown. Might have just been the first touchdown of that year. Not sure. I don't remember. But for some reason, that stands out to me because it was like Kenny was so beloved just by everybody that had even bumped into him, on campus. So this guy was so excited. He's like, Kenny, I told you're getting your first touchdown. But dude, so the students these days, they don't experience Chicken Finger Wednesday. They don't have those patty melt and fries.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you remember if you went to the Russell House on Friday? And this was one of those things, Chicken Finger Wednesday was like a thing. Like everybody knew they would have chicken fingers on Wednesdays. Yeah. But on Fridays, I don't know if it was never like said, oh, we always have this on Friday. But I remember every single time, this was probably my sophomore year, I had an early Friday morning class, which we all know can be a struggle.
Very bad.
But they would always have fried chicken and macaroni and cheese on the food line on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
And I never heard it mentioned as like fried chicken Friday or anything like that. But it seemed like every single Friday I'd be in there, a little slow moving, and I'd grab that and I'd go back to my dorm, eat fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, and I'd take a nap. But dude, that was some of the best fried chicken and macaroni and cheese I've ever had. So do you remember that as well? Like, was that just me, or?
I don't have as good a memory of it as Chicken Finger Wednesday, obviously. Although, and this is maybe a little bit of Russell House sacrilege, I didn't do Chicken Finger Wednesday as much as like the normal USC student.
I don't think I did either. It was more. It was like a cool concept more than anything.
I did it sometimes because my issue was. So to answer your question, I remember that chicken being there. I'm not sure. I feel like I had it, a couple of times, whatever. I didn't do the line a ton, including Chicken Finger Wednesday, because I felt like anything else would be getting in the way of me eating Pandinis for like 2 meals a day. So I saw Izzy put out on that tweet. She was talking about something called Topios. I'm not familiar with that.
No, we must be too old for that.
We are too old. And dude, I feel like, to go back to your original point about the Russell House, like if I walked in, I would age myself because I'd like an old man. I would start complaining about how things aren't how they used to be and be all mad about it. But Pandini's closing, whenever that happened several years ago, it was very emotional for me. It really hit me. The things that in the Russell House, I would do the patty melt a lot, like you said. Pandini's buffalo chicken pizza, it will never be matched. I will hear no arguments on it. It was incredible. The ranch, every pizza they had there, the Libretti, you remember that thing?
Yeah.
The Libretti was incredible. They used to have one every now and then. They'd have a steak one. So good. So we ate there all the time. The thing that was one of the funniest but also best things to me was the salad line. On the left, I did eat salads. Thank the Lord, or I would have gained like 80 pounds instead of 50. Or
they had good Caesar salads.
Very good. Any salad. I mean, they had every kind of thing you wanted, but it was good, but it was also hilarious because it literally was like a George Costanza soup Nazi experience most of the time. We would always have to psych ourselves up for it, and we talked about how bad it was going to be because when you got in the line, you're looking for. I mean, salad's incredible. So you know what type? The ladies there, they did not have the best attitude all the time. So they'd ask you what kind of salad. Normally, I get romaine, and then you got to the part that was really it got intense, because then it was what kind of dressing, and it was asked very accusatory, you know, and you'd say whatever, ranch, Caesar, whatever you wanted. How many scoops? So sometimes I liked a lot of dressing, so I would say 3. And I mean, they act like you had stolen from their toddler or something, you know? And so it was so you're like, by the end of it, you're like fully demoralized, you know, but then you get your really good salad.
Dude, so
I remember that.
yeah,
like, you never have a bad, yeah.
You know, I feel like it's one of those things where, you know how you completely forgotten something, but then somebody reminds you,
Yeah.
and then you just like you remember things. I remember. So here was my creation, and I haven't thought about this in years. Go to the salad line. Caesar salad. So, you know, romaine loaded with dressing, some Parmesan cheese, some croutons, and then talk about a full-on Zaxby's. This is like a Zaxby's salad, because Zaxby's sells salads that should not even be allowed to be called salads, because they put, I mean, they put egg rolls on their salads. Like, if you have an egg roll on your salad,
yeah,
you can't even be. I guess that's why they call it a salad instead of a salad, because that's not a salad. So
yeah,
Caesar salad, then go upstairs, get a little box of the chicken nuggets from Chick-fil-A, and then throw the fried chicken. You could get grilled chicken, I think, downstairs on there. Throw the fried chicken on there and eat a Russell House Caesar salad with Chick-fil-A nuggets on it.
yeah.
Boom.
That's excellent.
Oh, man.
You must have been calling home a lot with a meal like that. You must have been like, Mom, I need some more bonus bucks.
Well, I had the bonus bucks, man. I had the bonus bucks, which were such BS, because you couldn't, if you used a meal plan, you couldn't like use another meal plan to like offset. Right. You had to do meal plan plus bonus bucks.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if you went to Pandini's, you were definitely using bonus bucks.
You were.
For what I remember on the price. That's what somebody else tweeted. Like, man, they're just talking about how expensive Pandini's was. I guess I didn't even think about it as a kid or as a student. It seems like it was that long ago that I was a kid. But anyway, all right, dude. So no real segue here. So just tell everybody about the game day chair.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we won't have any Pandini's apparently ever again in the game.
I got it. After eating your food from Russell House, when you're falling into your food coma,
yes,
and you need the perfect place to lay back,
that is perfect.
Game day chair is there for you.
And you know what? Any students out there listening, game day chair in your dorm, I'm not sure if it would fit.
I don't know if that's our sales tactic, but
well, I mean, I still think it could work. Any parents, Christmas is coming up. Get your student a game day chair for their apartment. Okay, but seriously, the game day chair, it's awesome. Super comfortable. If your back hurts, if you're tired, or if you just want a super comfortable chair, give those guys a call, 803-926-1493. Visit their website. Links on GamecockCentral.com. Links on our YouTube description to go check it out. It's called the Maxi Comfort Cloud with Twilight technology, TV watching position, lounge position, lay completely flat, all with the push of a button. And they are a primary sponsor for the show, so we appreciate their support. Make sure you go support them and check out the game day chair as well.
At what point in this show are people going to be hitting the little arrow thing and tabbing forward? Because you know how 107.5 gets, if they talk about anything but sports, you have the portion of it. This is a sports show. You're not allowed to talk about life. You're not allowed to talk about food. You're not allowed to talk about music.
Yeah.
People probably just are tabbing forward right now. These idiots are talking about Pandini's. Talk about Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins.
Yeah, right. Right. I don't know, man. I think anybody who's ever experienced Pandinis will be watching this like, yes, yes.
They're gonna get sad though. I
Yeah,
think
I'm really sad. I'm depressed now. I really don't.
I could feel the mood in the room drop over the internet as
Yeah.
soon as I mentioned RIP Pandinis.
Mm, yeah.
I would pop up if we put more effort into graphics in the show. I would pop up a RIP Pandini's graphic right now. All right, dude. So final half of we've talked a ton about the first half of the year this week. Go back. It's on YouTube. It's on all the podcast platforms. By the way, subscribe to us on YouTube. Rate, review, subscribe on the podcast platform that you listen to the show on. But we've talked about the first five. Let's move forward to the final five. A prediction from each of us. It can be as big picture or as tiny, microscopic, zoomed in view as you want. And obviously, we've talked a ton about what needs to happen for this team. So I'm going to say, and I'm going to go out a little bit on a limb. I think most people already expect that Jalen Brooks can be someone who can at least help the receiving core a bit. I'm going to say on top of that, to make it a little more interesting, I think one of the freshman receivers with now a half of the year under their belt, a bye week where the freshmen really get a few more reps. I think one of them will come on and provide not an Alshon Jeffrey 2010 esque, 2009 esque push or anything crazy like that, but at least provide another aspect to the passing game. And I would have preseason told you Rico Powers, but I continue to hear buzz about Jakari Caldwell. So I'm going to say that the receiving core gets some help, that Jalen Brooks comes on a little bit and Jakari Caldwell gets more reps and maybe has a chance to catch a pass or two downfield and help out on that side of the ball. So I can't really say that all with complete conviction, but I think there's a decent chance it happens. And to add a question or something I'm curious about as well, I'm curious to see if somebody like an Eric Shaw, who we heard a lot about once he returned from injury this sort of preseason as the season was starting, I'm wondering if he can maybe put himself in a position to get some more snaps. He's taken one offensive snap this year. Now, he's been out there on special teams some. One snap, that was against Florida. Can they get him involved? Because I think he can be a weapon for you once he gets comfortable. So we'll see when the light comes on for all those guys, but I continue to hear that Jakari is making some plays in practice. It's just about word of the year, consistency, and learning this offense to where you can feel comfortable putting him out there for an extended period of time.
And there are several guys that could fall into that category, either guys that we have seen a tiny bit from, have seen none from, or some guys that are already on the roster and have been on the roster for a while. And so what I mean by that is with the bye week, A&M coming up next Saturday, does South Carolina get Rosendo Lewis back? Could help some at linebacker. When Ernest Jones isn't in the game, it's an issue for South Carolina right now. So can Lewis get back? A, B, can he help? Then there's some guys that you mentioned like Eric Shaw or a Jaheim Bell maybe. Now Kevion Mullins and his health, that could tie into all that. If Kevion is back and healthy, which we don't know yet if he will be for A&M, then he showed some flashes against LSU to where maybe he's a guy that ends up taking even more reps than he had before. Maybe that shuts out, some of the freshmen a little bit more. Obviously, like you said, West receiver, Alex Huntley, a defensive tackle. He was a guy that was probably in line to play before he rolled his ankle, and so he's missed the first half of the season. Obviously, that means you miss a lot of practice time during the year. But if you can get back, get acclimated quickly, does he get into that rotation a little bit in the back half? Possibly, So those are questions too. Mine, I don't know. I sort of struggle with predicting anything. This has been a hard team to predict. The only thing that you've been able not you. The only team I think anybody's been able to say with consistency is this team's probably going to run the football well. Other than that, we don't really know.
Well, we didn't even know that preseason.
We didn't know that preseason. We know it now because they've at least done that for the most part pretty consistently. Now, will they continue that? I don't know that. But they've got some games. I see this schedule as them having several more of those games in the back half that are a little bit more of a toss-up. How many will they be favored in? I don't know. I mean, it depends, week to week, what they do, what other teams do. Right now, sitting right here, we wouldn't favor South Carolina against Georgia. Nobody would. They'll be probably a multi-touchdown underdog, I would guess. What other ones will they be favored in? I don't know. Would you favor South Carolina against A&M? No. Would you favor them against Missouri, Kentucky? No. Ole Miss, maybe. And even that's on the road. So I'm going to say, and this really isn't that, I don't know, out on a limb, but it is a question is how many games this team can win because they've got at least 3 probably toss-up type games on this schedule. And I'm even putting some they may not be favored into that toss-up category. I see A&M as a little bit of a toss-up, honestly. You don't favor them in the game, but it's not like, 3 touchdown margin. I'm going to say South Carolina can get at least 2 down the stretch. Is that even a good prediction? I mean, I don't know.
No.
Okay. If I said 3, would that be a good prediction?
Well, it depends on if you're right or not.
Well, is it
3 dubs, you said?
Yeah.
I mean,
is it a prediction like is it like that's stupid, Chris? That's not going out on a limb at all. Like they can beat one of Ole Miss. They can go beat Ole Miss and somebody else. Pick one out of Kentucky, Missouri, A&M.
No, because I don't really think that's far. I mean, if you believe that's what's going to happen, then it's a good prediction.
Because look, man, they could lose. I look at the back half of the schedule. Would it be some shock, given what we've seen so far this year? Would it be some shock if South Carolina lost all of those games?
Sorry, you're no, it wouldn't. Your Chris is like spastic in the morning with his coffee. He's like over here beating on his mic, like clicking a pen as he talks.
Yeah, I get a little spastic.
No,
I think it is a legitimate question, and it's one we've gotten a lot. How many can they win in the back half of the season? And I don't think saying 2 is like, oh, way to go. But like could also predict. Like if somebody sat there and predict, I don't think they're going to win a game. Like you would maybe have at least some eye test evidence to say, yeah, it's sort of a toss up. But I think they can get a couple. And I'm not saying maybe they go out and win 3, maybe they win 4 even. They'll have to play a lot better to do that, I think, particularly on defense. But I think they can win a couple games in the back half. If they win at least 2, that's 4 and 6. Nobody's going to be happy. But it's not 2 and 10. If they go 5 and 5, we always said going into this year before we saw this team play a snap, if they went 5 and 5, I know people aren't going to say or agree with this necessarily, but that's a good year for this team. It shows some progress. So they're going to need to make some hay in terms of showing that progress in the back half.
All right, dude. So, and by the way, the one thing I would maybe disagree with, I feel like they will probably, and we don't know what's going to happen between now and these games. I think they would be favored over Missouri.
Think so?
Yeah. And I tend, a lot of these analytics that you can find tend to sort of match up, I feel like, with Vegas. And I don't follow that stuff like down to microscopic detail. So somebody else out there that does, maybe like, that's wrong. But for the most part, it seems like if you look at like SP plus or like FPI and look at those percentages, it tends to match up with the Vegas odds because obviously Vegas is using some form of analytics and their version of the statistics that matter to sort of pick what the odds should be. And ESPN's FPI right now is very strange, man. I would say, so in actuality, ESPN gives South Carolina the best chance of beating Missouri. And
out of any game on the schedule, you mean?
yes, out of any game left.
I got you. Yeah.
60.5% chance of beating Missouri. So let's see. Ole Miss is next, and that is about as true of a toss-up as you can be. South Carolina has the ever slightest advantage at 50.9% of beating Ole Miss. Then the interesting thing to me, and I don't know how much they're weighting home versus away. It's obviously factored in here to an extent, but because Kentucky is a worse team than Texas A&M, even according to FPI, but they actually give South Carolina a 45.1% chance of beating Texas A&M, which is probably much higher than anybody that's a South Carolina fan is thinking. So that game really is more of a toss-up, like you said, than most people. It's sort of on the other side. If Missouri is a toss-up with a slight lean towards South Carolina, then A&M is a toss-up with an actually even slighter lean towards A&M. So South Carolina has a 45% chance of winning that game. A&M has a 55% chance of winning that game. Kentucky, which to me looks very beatable, South Carolina has a 42.2% chance of beating them. Again, that game is in Lexington. Obviously, the A&M game next week is in Columbia. And then Georgia, South Carolina has a 14.6% chance of win. Again, this is all according to ESPN FPI. You may think all these numbers are garbage. That's fine. I want to say that South Carolina's chances of beating Georgia in Georgia last year, according to FPI, were even lower than that. But I can't remember specifically what the number was. So, point being, at least according to these numbers, South Carolina has pretty much four toss-ups, with two of them sort of, barely leaning towards Carolina, and two of them barely leaning towards A&M and Kentucky, which I think the funny thing about this season, Chris, is that it's been completely unpredictable in how we've gotten here, but entirely predictable in that South Carolina sits at 2-3, which is probably where, if you just looked at the schedule preseason, if I told you Carolina would be 2-3 at the break, you'd be like, that makes sense. So it's very unpredictable in how we've gotten here, but it's very predictable what the final result will be. So would it really surprise anybody if South Carolina beats A&M but loses to Kentucky? And it sort of just averages out.
No surprise at all. And that's what, and when we say, is anybody surprised that South Carolina's 2-3, or we thought that before the season, doesn't mean people have to be happy about it, right? But like nobody, certainly we did not think, oh yeah, South Carolina would probably be 5-0 after, like we nobody would have projected that. And so I think the one that sticks in everybody's craw is the Tennessee game, because that's the one you really, really had a chance to win, and you could be sitting here at 3-2. And everybody would feel better. They'd still be mad about the LSU game if it played out like that. They'd still be mad about Florida. But at the end of the day, there would have been a couple road losses to teams that have talent. And, you'd be at 3-2 and feel better. But, yeah, I'm not that – I almost view it that way. Not to say South Carolina is going to beat Texas A&M. I just feel like – and I've watched some Kentucky and some A&M this year. I just feel like that Kentucky game's a more dangerous game even. Notwithstanding it being on the road, Kentucky's scuffled on offense, but you still just feel like they can do some things that might give South Carolina trouble. And their defense is very capable of, see the Tennessee game, for instance. Their defense is capable of wreaking some havoc. They've got some really good players there. And so going over there and scoring, could be an issue. So, I sort of see it. I think the FPI, it's based more on analytics, obviously, than just eye test or gut feel. But I can sort of see it lining up that way. That's sort of how I think I might view all those games as well.
Well, and I think we'll talk a second about A&M. I didn't know if we had an hour of things to talk about, and here we are. We're almost at an hour. You look at this A&M game, man. Isaiah Spiller, great running back for those guys. South Carolina, and so far their inability to stop the run. To me, that's sort of the big thing. Everybody next week will be talking about. Mm-hmm. Can South Carolina slow down Isaiah Spiller? What does that look like? Are there any changes they can make? And I don't know what those changes might look like, because Chris, there's not really like a guy you can just plug in there where we're sitting here saying, this guy could help them stop the run. There's no magic pill here. South Carolina is going to have to just, as sort of obvious as this is going to sound, they just have to play better. And the way Muschamp has talked, now maybe some of this is hope from a coach, but he talked about 28 plays they reviewed from the LSU game, where it's more stay in your gap, do what you're supposed to do, don't bounce out and try to do what your neighbor is supposed to do. Do your job, which those things are very correctable. The issues that are going to be tougher to correct is this problem that South Carolina has had trying to get off blocks. And if you are struggling, like you're getting engaged with the offensive lineman and you just can't get off a block, that is something, depending on the talent of the rest of the offensive lineman you're going to face, which apparently A&M, is going to be a pretty good rushing football team, that can be an issue. Now, Chris, I remember 2 years ago, we talked about this on the phone. I remember 2 years ago, A&M came in with a great running back. I can't remember that kid's name. Came to Williams-Brice Stadium. I think the guy was leading the SEC in rushing.
Yep.
South Carolina was struggling to stop the run and actually probably had their best game of the year for that season as far as stopping the run, and played it really well. Kellen Mond had some big plays in that game, but for the most part, Carolina that was the game where they were down, 16-0 maybe, and then came storming back in the second half and made it very interesting. And Kellen Mond has been there at least 10 years, so South Carolina will get a chance to face him again. But to me, A&M and their offense has always been about how far can Kellen Mond take them. If you limit the big plays from him, you have a chance against them. If he's playing like a five-star guy, then they can be very difficult to beat.
Yeah, no doubt. And Kellen Mond has really hurt them. I think back when Mond was a freshman, I guess it was 2004. No, I'm just kidding. It was I guess it was the 2017 game at A&M. And, another close game in that one. And Kellen Mond he hurt them in that game by extending plays or making some critical runs on third down. I think back to some of the plays in that game where they had a chance to bottle him up and just missed him, or they couldn't get off the field on third down because he made a critical play. And we've seen that from him. So he is quite capable of hurting you. They're going to have to find a way to affect him. We talked about that last week. Now, it's going to be a different task because he's more mobile. He's experienced. They're going to present some different things. It's a different type of challenge, but they've got to find a way to affect him. But you're right. I mean, South Carolina, sort of maybe almost inexplicably that year, it was Travion Williams. I mean, he was really good.
That's the name.
He was really up and down that season, but he finished the year with 1,700 rushing yards. And he just did it by having some huge games. I mean, he went for 228 against Ole Miss. He went for 198 against LSU. He went for 236 against NC State. So, he averaged 6.5 yards a carry that season. But against South Carolina, he rushed 19 times for 78 yards and had a touchdown. I mean, 4.1 a carry. So it was a solid showing. It wasn't like he played poorly. But he didn't
take that.
Yeah, you take that all day with what they had. And so, that game, South Carolina offensively certainly could have done more. And so it's going to be a similar thing, though. You're going to have Kellen Mond. Can you get him off rhythm? can you get off the field on third down, contain him, and then can you stop the run? It's going to be really a similar recipe to what we've seen.
Yep. So we'll see. That'll be a fun, really for the first, Kevin Harris now sort of becoming a little bit of a household name in the SEC. Kevin Harris versus Isaiah Spiller, two of your better backs statistically right now in the SEC. So that'll be fun. All right, man. Final thing. We're going away from football again, so y'all can tab on to the end or close us out if you have to. But, all right, another Twitter conversation. Somebody put talking about the worst, the Halloween candy that you're just throwing away or that you're giving it to your daughter as opposed to keeping it for yourself. You're not picking these out. Yellow Starburst, I think, are on the negative side of things. Everybody is torn on candy corn, on whether that's good or not. But, dude, somebody put the little special dark chocolate mini Hershey's bars. Yeah. They put those in the category of candy nobody wants.
Trash pile?
Yeah, which caught me off guard. And then it's one of those things I was like, wait, is that a normal thought by most people and I'm just weird on this, or is it just this person who feels that way? I'm all in on the special darks. So if anybody wants to give me theirs because it's like a thing people hate, you can send them to me and I'll eat them all. But first of all, is that how most people feel? And two, what's your best Halloween candy and worst?
Oh man, that's a tough one. All right. So the special dark, first of all, so I'll say this. I like dark chocolate a lot. I sort of want to eat it like when I'm like, I want some dark chocolate. So if I'm trick or treating, which I do all the time since I'm 34, but no, I do it with my kids. But like if they have a big pile of candy, I will say the dark chocolate is probably going to be one of the last things I eat. I don't know if most people have that. I've never heard that come up that much about like such a strong opinion on the special dark. But I'm fine with it. I'm good with it. I like dark chocolate. When I think of Halloween candy, that's not what I think of. So the best, that is very difficult. I don't know if Sour Patch Kids count as Halloween candy.
I think all candy counts.
Yeah, I mean, Sour Patch Kids are probably my favorite thing in the world. I would eat way too many of them. It's really bad. Any like sour sort of grabby thing like that, I'll always eat. That would probably be my favorite, but I like a lot of it. Worst, I don't know. Maybe like those little hot tamales or whatever. I love, you know me, I love spicy stuff. I'm just not down with it on the candy. And I have a love-hate relationship with dots. A lot of people give out dots.
Yeah.
I used to think those are gross, but then a while back I ate some and I sort of liked them. So that's a non-answer. But so hot tamales, sort of worthless if I get those during Halloween. Yeah.
Dude, what are those things? Somebody responded to that tweet I'm talking about, and I don't even know what these candies are. They were like wrapped up in little wax papers, and they're just like, I don't even know how to, it's almost like eating wax as well, I feel like. Because it was just like a blob of sugary goo.
You talking about taffy? Like saltwater taffy?
I don't think it may have been some commercialized version of taffy. Like if you go to the beach and get saltwater taffy, I feel like I like that. I think it's good.
Oh yeah, it's really good.
But this is just like I don't even know what flavor it's supposed to be. It's in a dark black like wax paper and sort of rolled up, and you go like this and it unrolls. I guess you didn't get those in your.
I mean, I feel like I sort of know what you're thinking about, but then I can't.
I don't know what they're called, but
come up with it.
But for me, man, I'm good on anything chocolate, and I'm kind of out on just about anything not chocolate. So I don't even know if I have a favorite. I like Snickers a lot. Yeah. I like Reese cups, but I also have to sort of be in the mood for Reese cups. So I don't know if they'd be my absolute favorite. But
I used to love Twix.
Dude, I am. Left Twix or right Twix?
Either.
I don't know. Their commercial, I guess, is all in on the left right thing. But anyway, I'm trying to find that original tweet. It was from Wes Blankenship, who's actually a really good Twitter follow.
Yeah.
If you're not following him. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. But all right, y'all. I think I think this show has expired. So we're gonna hop off here. Appreciate you joining us. If you made it this far, shout out to our normal live chat folks. Sorry we're not live today, but we'll be back on Monday. Gamecock Russ, hit him up on Twitter. He was doing his. We always like to give Russ a shout out at RustyB25. He's asking Gamecock Nation their favorite Halloween candy. So hit him up if you want to weigh in on this topic. And we didn't even get, dude. If we had time, I was going to get into how many Gamecocks were on the field in the Thursday night football game last night. We don't really have time, other than to say Mike Davis is running like an absolute beast, and the Panthers have a nice little 1-2 punch now once they get Christian McCaffrey back. So, all right, dude. Any final thoughts? Or are you good?
Good. Hayden Hurst, another nice game last night as well. And
yeah, pick that ball up.
Yeah, a little upset with it. Helped beat my Panthers. That was disappointing. Didn't make it the whole game because I fell asleep. But yeah, good night for those guys. Joe Charlton, part of the, as you said, Wes, the key, I think, to the punt fake there.
Yes.
They ran the fake punt. But yeah, it was a good night for those guys. Mike Davis having a really good year. Really, really glad for him too.
Yeah, Matt Rule was going all Steve Spurrier, man, just going for every fourth down, fake punts. Let's go for another couple fourth downs. I'm here for it, so it didn't necessarily work out, but it was fun. He's shaking things up. All right, y'all, we will reconvene right here on YouTube on Monday. Everybody have a great weekend. For Chris, I'm Wes. We'll see you then.
See y'all.